Guys, it is a beautiful Tuesday afternoon here in Lincoln, Illinois, and in central Illinois. We are, having a kind of a word of the day type of podcast episode. And the word of the day that we're learning is accountability. And you're going to see what I mean here in a little bit when we talk about it. A lot of games that happened week 2 in college football. We're going to talk about it here right now. And we're going to recap week 2. We're also going to preview and predict the top matchup for week 3 coming up here in just a little bit. But the word of the day that we're going to learn about is accountability. Accountability, you're going to see what we mean in this episode. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, or listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X, Instagram, and Facebook, just type in Pigskin Frenzy. Follow like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, go to our website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you will find a Home and About Me page. Learn more about me. You can contact me down there, your name, email, question. I'll answer it on the show or off the show if need be. Our platforms page, all the platforms I just mentioned, go and click on that page and you'll find all the platforms on there, as well as our affiliations page. This brings us to our proud partners at the Beard Club. Guys, if you want a great shave and to look really, really well as you go about your day, you're going to want to look at the Beard Club. Significant others are your male counterpart, listen up. You're not going to want to miss out on the beard grooming kits, combs, razors, beard balm, beard oil, beard and face wash, and many more. There's also beard growth kits. There's also 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, body wash, loofahs, and more at the Beard Club. Just go to my website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you will find all things up to date with Pigskin Frenzy. You can go to the affiliations page, click on the Beard Club logo, and you will go straight to the Beard Club site. You will also click on my link tree. It's at the description of this YouTube video down below. You're not going to want to miss it. You can also go to my X bio, my Instagram bio, and my Facebook bio. Click on the link tree, click on the Beard Club link, and you will go to the Beard Club site. 25% off with the code Beard Day. They're having their Beard Day sale. Beard Day is the code, 25% off, and get all your products for 25% off. The Beard Club, proud partner of Pigskin Frenzy, is going to help your grooming needs and facial hair needs be met. Thank you for being a proud partner of Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, college football day today. We're ready to rock and roll. Week 2 was a doozy. It really was. It was a doozy, but there's a lot to get serious about, especially when it comes to Colorado football. And we'll have a little bit of an honorable mentions on something that happened week 2 as well. We're not stat heavy. We're just going to give you my quick thoughts on week 2 recap, and then we'll preview and predict week 3 preview and predictions. We're going to do something a little bit different on this show and on this episode today. So let's get rocking and rolling. Let's kick it off with a blowout, and it was Tennessee and North Carolina State. And the final score of that game was 51-10. Tennessee 51, North Carolina State 10. I was right in week 2 a lot of games. I was 3 for 1. Got one game wrong, but 3 for 1. Three right and 1 wrong. And Tennessee, man, let me go and tell you something about Tennessee. Just going to warn everybody, and we're going to sound the sirens here. We're going to sound the sirens that they are for real. They are a for real team. Nico Amaliava blew it up with 3+ touchdowns, over 250+ yards total, and he blew it up. They look good on the ground with Dylan Sampson. Their defense looked good up front as well. Very physical football team, but also presented that balance of how they were in 2022 with Hendon Hooker, right? So they have that balance about them. They had that high-paced style of offense like with Hendon Hooker, but they're also very physical like they were last year under Joe Milton, right? So it was kind of a balance for Tennessee. Tennessee is a team that is, was 14. Now they're number 7 in the AP poll right now in the rankings. Watch out for Tennessee. This is a huge, huge statement victory for them. They looked really, really good on all facets of the ball. I really liked how Nico Amaliava played in this game. He is a underrated quarterback in this league, and in the SEC, they're going to have to watch watch out for him. Josh Heupel outcoached Dave Dorian, and he outcoached the NC State staff. Really well-coached game, all facets of the ball. Grayson McCall didn't have any answer for the defense. Pick six on a lot, turnovers, pick six, you name it. NC State's offense was just having trouble just being physical and just kind of reading Tennessee's defense in this game. So the Dukes Mayo's Classic was a doozy for Tennessee. 51-10 was the score. Let's talk about NC State now for a little bit. I'm done talking about Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be a problem in this league, and I honestly think we're going to have to watch out for them. They looked really, really good. Let's talk about NC State. Grayson McCall, hot shot group of 5 quarterback, now coming into the Power 4 finally in his last year, transferring from Coastal Carolina to NC State. Did not look very good against Tennessee, was having a lot of trouble, overthrowing a lot of receivers, making some poor decisions. Accuracy was not there, and the defense was just all in his face. They are a good football team. I just think they were outmatched in a lot of areas against Tennessee in that game, which is okay. It happens, right? It's one of those things when you look and you're thinking, they got some players on that team, and they got some guys that can compete with other teams in the ACC, but they just don't look like they are a team nowhere near shape or form able to compete with Tennessee on that field, and that's okay. It happens. You just come across a team that's just better, and Tennessee was just better in that area. I think Grayson McCall is the right guy. I think David Dorian is going to be a solid coach this season. He's going to lead NC State to some good wins this season. I think NC State is still a solid team. You're thinking, dude, are you insane? They just lost 51-10. But just when you look at it and you think about it, I think NC State's got a shot at being a really good team in the ACC. They just played a way better team that night. So final score of that game was 51-10. Tennessee thumps NC State. Big time win for Tennessee and the Volunteers. NC State going back to the drawing board there, and Tennessee looking good. A lot of football left to play for both teams. So watch out for both teams, but definitely watch out for the Tennessee Volunteers. Let's talk about the other 3 games, and then we'll get on to the preview and predictions here on Pigskin Frenzy. Let's talk about this for a second. Let's discuss this one right here. Let's discuss another game that I was also right about, and that's Texas-Michigan. Final score of that game, Texas 31, Michigan 12. Or was it 33-12? I'm not sure. I think I got the wrong score, but Texas dominates Michigan, 31-12. I got it right. 31-12. Final score of that game was Texas beating Michigan badly in the Big House. And I didn't expect it to be that bad. I said, if you watch the Instagram video I posted last week, go and tune into that on Instagram. I said that Texas was going to play Michigan close, but Michigan was going to lose that game because I just think Texas has got the better team, and returning production is just far more superior than Michigan. So final score of that game was 31-12. Texas was the more physical football team. They were outplayed. They won the line of scrimmage battle, and Quinn Ewers was the better quarterback that day. Quinn Ewers was making accurate decisions. Throws were on point. Gunnar Helm was a big part of this offense, and he... Honestly, if you look at his stats, he had a 98 yards, 7 receptions, and 1 touchdown in this game. Quinn Ewers had 3 touchdowns with 246 yards on the day. Quinn Ewers was firing on all cylinders with his receivers, and he was clicking. Defense looked good as well with... defense looked good as well for Texas as well. They looked with Derek Williams Jr. getting 1 pick as well as 5 total tackles in that game as well. They looked good on defense. They looked good physically against Michigan. They outmanned them, and they were just outmatched, Michigan was, against the Longhorns. Quinn Ewers and Texas are rocking and rolling. They're 2-0 on the season. They're looking like they're going to be a very huge one of the top teams in the SEC already. No big shock there. I said that they were. And they are, because they had the team to be. They had, and the schedule favors them in almost every game. They're going to be favored in almost every game besides maybe one, and that probably is that October 19th date against the Georgia Bulldogs. We don't know that. We'll see. But they're favored in. They could be. The odds may shift the closer we get to that day, especially since that game is played in Austin, Texas. So McConaughey was happy, I'm sure. Texas looked good, I'm sure, and they looked good overall and more physical overall on both sides of the football. So Texas looked good, 31-12. Let's talk about Michigan for a second before we move on. Michigan just got to go back to the drawing board. I think what the problem is, they lost a lot. Orgy did not play very much. It was all Davis Warren in that game. He had 204 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions in that game. 2 turnovers. Donovan Edwards couldn't get a lot going on the ground. 8 carries with 41 yards in that game as well. That offense could not click on all cylinders. They just looked like they lost a lot. Colston Loveland was mainly the guy to go to, along with him and Samaj Morgan in that game as well. Touchdown for Samaj Morgan, 45 yards, 5 receptions for Samaj Morgan, and Loveland had 70 yards with 8 receptions. Just the go-to guys. But other than that, they just lost a lot. And I think that's the problem with Michigan. They just lost too much from that national championship team. I think if Michigan keeps going the way they're going, they're going to win some games. I'm not saying that, but if they play like that and don't play as physical as they did last season, there's going to be some teams that are going to creep up on them that you don't expect. So that's what I'm afraid of for Michigan at this point in time right now. The quarterback situation between him and Davis Warren and Alex Orgy, that's kind of concerning for me right now. How to move the ball down the field is a very big concern, besides just running the ball with Donovan Edwards and not only Donovan Edwards, but Khalil Mullings. I think Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards are a good threat to their on the ground game. But if you just talk about that and you think, just if you look at that and see everything going on there and seeing the quarterback situation going on there with Michigan, I think that's the big problem right there. And that's a recipe for disaster on how to be consistent, how to be, in a stagnant offense. So final score of that game was 31-12. Texas just flat out went into the big house and thumped Michigan, beat Michigan 31-12 in this game. Texas looking really, really good. Michigan needs to go back to the drawing board, especially with some of these big-time games coming up. They got the Trojans of USC coming up here in a couple of weeks. So we're going to see what that game has in store for us as well. Texas beats Michigan 31-12. Let's talk about 3 more games before we get done with our week 2 recap and then get on with our preview and predictions for this game. Let's talk about another game that I got right. And it was Oklahoma State, Texas. Final score of that game, and it was quite the game, honestly. Quite the game. Double overtime. Oklahoma and Arkansas. My bad. I said Texas, didn't I? Oklahoma State and Arkansas. Double overtime game. Oklahoma State and Arkansas. Final score of that game was 39-31. Oklahoma State defeats Arkansas in a close win. I thought this was my favorite game of the day. I thought that both offenses were clicking. Taylor Green was a monster. Arkansas outgained Oklahoma State. Total yards, 648 total yards compared to Oklahoma State's 385. Rushing yards, 232 for Arkansas, 59 rushing yards for Oklahoma State, and 416 passing yards to their 326, and Oklahoma State found a way to still win this game. Ollie Gordon didn't really have an answer until the end. Ollie Gordon scored a touchdown late in overtime, and then they ended up stopping Arkansas to win the game in double overtime, 4th and 1 there. Arkansas is 1-1. Oklahoma State is 2-0, but Arkansas with Taylor Green could be an underrated team. Let's talk about Arkansas first really quick before we talk about Oklahoma State. Arkansas looked good overall in that game. They competed really well in Stillwater this past Saturday. I really liked the performance of Taylor Green. I thought Taylor Green had 416 yards and then a touchdown, along with 61 yards on the ground. So he looked, quite impressive, commanding and controlling that offense. Everyone was, having some problems, and even me during the offseason was having problems with him being a pure passer, right? And he was, he showed and displayed that against the Cowboys this past Saturday, being a pure passer, 416 yards through the air. He looked good, and he looked like a true dual threat, commanding that Razorback offense. Jaquindon Jackson looked like a solid playmaker as well. 3 touchdowns, 149 yards with 24 carries. Him and Taylon Green were the rulers of that offense and were leading to so many of those points against Oklahoma State in that game. They brought it, and Sam Pittman brought the energy. He brought the physicality to the Cowboys and Mike Gundy that day, but they could not get the job done. I think in late in the game, they made a couple of mistakes and a couple of decisions, especially on defense, and committed some undisciplined and unnecessary penalties to lead to Oklahoma State to capture that ball game and get that victory. Oklahoma State's 2-0, Arkansas is 1-1, but Arkansas can be an underrated team going into the SEC. So let's watch out for Arkansas. Taylon Green, they got some good games coming up like Ole Miss, LSU throughout the year. So we're gonna have to watch out for them. Texas A&M even, Texas even. So let's watch out for what Arkansas has in store for the SEC. As for Oklahoma State, I think that they did good, but they also got outmanned and outplayed by a very physical and underrated Arkansas team this past Saturday. I think Ollie Gordon and had some trouble finding some room in lanes to run. They got to establish the run game with Ollie Gordon a whole lot better. They did it a little bit against South Dakota State, but they need to do it a little bit more throughout the season because that offense he's kind of the glue of that offense right now, especially with how good and how much of a solid player he is on offense running the football. So if you look at him and you look at that offense, it kind of runs through him. I think that Oklahoma State is a solid football team that can run through him. Bowman is a solid playmaker, but Gordon is the piece of that puzzle that makes everything just stay intact. So they got to do better at running the football and committing undisciplined and being a little bit more being a little bit more disciplined. I think that in a lot of areas with penalties, they had 6 penalties, 60 yards. I think they could be a lot better at penalties, efficiency. Efficiency on third down was 5 for 16. They can be better at that. And I just feel like they could be a lot better in some key areas as the season goes on. They're 2-0. Doesn't matter. They won the game. They still won. They got outplayed, but they still won the game. It happens in college football and a lot nowadays. So final score of that game was 39-31. Oklahoma State beats Arkansas and gets the win in double overtime. Let's see what Oklahoma State's got in store for us for the rest of the year. Arkansas, let's see what they have in store for us as they continue their season. Let's talk about one more game, and then we'll do an honorable mentions before we conclude with our Week 3 preview and predictions here on Pigskin Frenzy. Let's talk about Nebraska and Colorado, the game that I was wrong about. I was wrong about this game, and we're going to talk about it quickly before we talk about Notre Dame, because there's a problem there with Notre Dame. So, final score of the Colorado game. I had Colorado beating Nebraska. I was wrong about this game. 28-10, Nebraska defeats Colorado, and not only defeats Colorado, destroys Colorado. Let's go with Nebraska first. Dylan Raiola is a solid football player. It's only his second game. He's a true freshman at start. His second game, he looks like Patrick Mahomes out there making wild throws. He's going to get even better as his college career goes on. Dylan Raiola, Matt Rule's system, trust the process with Nebraska. They are now ranked 23 in the AP poll after starting out this season 2-0. Dylan Raiola is a solid football player, an assassin on offense, and total command of that offense, and he looks like he's been doing it for 3 years, and he's not. He's only done it his second game in college. 185 yards, a touchdown. Dante Dowdell, 74 yards and 2 touchdowns, along with Ramir Johnson with 33 yards. Those guys are assassins when it comes to running the football and catching the ball. Dowdell and Johnson are the 2 backs that are making everything click on that offense as well. Raiola loves playing with those guys, and that offense is looking like it is clicking early on over the past 2 weeks. Watch out for Nebraska, man. Watch out for Nebraska, and let's see what they got going. I said that during the offseason that Nebraska could be a team that you underestimate a little bit, and if you overestimate them, you don't pay attention to them. That's all I got to say is pay attention to Dylan Raiola, pay attention to Nebraska, and pay attention to Matt Rule's system here. They looked really good. Defensively, they look good as well on both sides of the ball. Deshaun Singleton, 6 total tackles in that game. You look at Tommy Hill, he got an interception with 6 total tackles in that game as well. Defensively, they look physical on both sides of the football, and they look like a team that is ready to rock and roll and run through and just run through teams. So 28-10, Nebraska got the win here, and Nebraska looks solid. So we'll have to see what happens with Nebraska. Next game, they have to play Northern Iowa next, which should be an easy win for them. Let's talk about Colorado really quick, and we will go to Notre Dame, and then we'll go to our Week 3 preview and predictions. Let's talk about Colorado, and let's discuss this for a second. Colorado, and that word that I was looking for, and I tweeted this out. I said, without Travis Hunter, that I think Colorado would just be any other team. I think Travis Hunter is what makes that team click. This is nothing against Coach Prime. This is nothing against Shadur, but I'm being dead honest. The O-line was very troublesome in that game. The O-line, and I'm going to say it, the O-line looked really bad. I'm going to agree with Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. I'm going to agree with Shadur Sanders in this. The O-line did not help them at all. But I'm going to sit here and say this. I watched the post-game press conference in that game, and I watched Shadur Sanders say, did you see where Raiola got touched? Raiola didn't get touched because the O-line was physical up front, but in the Colorado's was not. So I agree with what he's saying. The O-line was not good, but you don't throw them under the bus. You made mistakes in that game too, Shadur Sanders. You did. You threw a pick six, clear as day pick six as well, for Nebraska to score and get the touchdown. Clear as day messed up on a lot of throws, a lot of areas. He did not look like a top 5 quarterback, and I've said that. That Shadur needs to work on a lot, and it's still some of the same old song and dance that we've been seeing from Shadur last year. It's not just the O-line. He needs to take some accountability. That's where the word of the day comes in, ladies and gentlemen. Accountability for his actions in the game. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse throughout the season. They need to find a way to sync up, link up, and it needs to take accountability to be a better leader. That's my honest thoughts on Shadur Sanders. He needs to be a better leader for this Colorado football team. Other than that, 10 points. O-line did not look as good. They couldn't get a lot of throws off. Shadur Sanders had 244 yards, a touchdown, and interception, but it really wasn't good decision-making wise. Dallin Hayden, he had 32 yards, and that was all pretty much it. Travis Hunter had 110 receiving yards, played both ways. He is what made that offense tick, and it was Travis Hunter. But other than that, Nebraska was just too much for Colorado to handle. Take accountability, be a better leader, and get better and develop as a quarterback. I think that is what I am saying about Shadur Sanders and about Colorado. It's not just the line. The line needs to get better too, but you need to step up as a leader in this game. Final score, Nebraska 28, Colorado 10. That was pretty much my Week 2 recap. Besides one more game, our honorable mentions, Notre Dame, and let me touch on this quickly, Notre Dame and Northern Illinois really, really quickly. Notre Dame lost 16-14 in this game to Northern Illinois. This was Northern Illinois' first top 10 AP poll win against a win against an AP top 10 team and even AP top 5 team in the AP poll ever in program history for Northern Illinois. Congratulations to Northern Illinois on getting this win. What does this mean for Notre Dame? Well, it doesn't completely rule them out of the playoffs, but it kind of dampers their playoff hopes just a tiny bit. They're independent. That's one. And I think they got some teams on their schedule that can bring it to them. I think that Riley Leonard and the offense looked a little bit out of sync in that game, and I feel like that Notre Dame looked like a team that was kind of off a little bit in that game. Northern Illinois played a really good defensive game, but offensively, they couldn't establish the run with Jeremiah Love a lot, and I think that's the big key, a big part of their offense as well. I think Riley Leonard needs to throw the ball a little bit more, and I think that, not only just throwing the ball with Riley Leonard, but throwing the ball with Riley Leonard. He needs to throw the ball a little bit better as well. So final score of that game was 16-14. Northern Illinois upsets Notre Dame. Notre Dame falls from 5 to 18, a huge drop in the AP poll, and Northern Illinois comes in at ranked 25 in the AP poll. So good for Northern Illinois. Kind of puts a damper on Notre Dame's playoff hopes. We'll see what Notre Dame has in store and Northern Illinois has in store for the rest of the college football season going into Week 3. That was my Week 2 recap. Quick and simple, just giving you my honest thoughts on this podcast episode. Let's talk about Week 3 and preview and predict Week 3 of college football before we conclude this episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Let's kick it off with the first game Friday night between Arizona and Kansas State. Kansas State coming up here, this coming up Friday night. Arizona's keys to win the game. Both of them are 2-0. Arizona looked a little bit flat last time against Northern Arizona, so we're going to find out what Arizona's about, especially Kansas State. Kansas State played a really hard-fought game against Tulane this past Saturday. We're going to find out what both teams are about Friday night in Big 12 conference play. Arizona keys are this. Number one, be just as physical as Kansas State. Kansas State was very physical against Tulane this past Saturday. If Arizona can match that on both sides of the football and both sides of the line of scrimmage, they can easily find a way to get a victory here this coming up Friday night in this game. Number two, just what I said, win the line of scrimmage battle. If you win the line of scrimmage battle, both sides of the football, it's going to look good. It's going to be good. So just win the line of scrimmage battle on both sides of the ball if you're Arizona. And number three, on defense, contain Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson is a lethal football player for the Wildcats of Kansas State. If you can go into Manhattan and contain him and pressure him and give him some different looks on defense, you can find a way to come up with a win and a very big upset win in Manhattan, Kansas against the Kansas State Wildcats. So number three, contain Avery Johnson. Kansas State's keys are pretty simple. Number one, established a balanced running game with Dylan Edwards, Colorado transfer, and DJ Giddens. Both of those players are solid football players on the ground. If you can just run the football and have a balanced running game with both of those running backs and maybe even do a little bit of slip passes to them as well, they can find a way to get them the win here in this game. Not only that, number two, force Noah Fafita into deep waters. Noah Fafita is a very underrated quarterback in the Big 12, solid player for Arizona. If he forced him into deep waters, make him look at the defense differently, make him confused, pressure him, make him force him into some deep waters, make him cause some turnovers, then y'all can win this game easily. Number three, just like I said about Arizona on number two, win the line of scrimmage battle. Be just as physical. Be physical like you were against Tulane. Win the line of scrimmage battle, win up front, and then everything else will fall into place. So number three, win the line of scrimmage battle. Kansas State at home against Arizona on Friday night. Who do I got winning this Big 12 matchup? Give me Kansas State. At home, I think Kansas State's going to be a little bit better. I think this game's going to be close. I think it's going to be probably a little bit high scoring. I think Kansas State 42, Arizona 35. I think Avery Johnson's just going to be a little bit too much, especially with the running backs with DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards on the ground. Give me Kansas State beating the other Wildcats, Arizona 42-35 by a touchdown in Manhattan, Kansas, and Arizona gets their first loss of the season in week 3. 2-1 and 3-0. Kansas State goes to 3-0. Arizona goes to 2-1. Kansas State defeats Arizona 42-35. Next game up, LSU at South Carolina. I get worried about doing an LSU game because every time I pick LSU to win, they usually lose. But let me just talk about this and let's just discuss everything. The keys to victory for this game: LSU looked a little bit sluggish, 1-1 going into South Carolina. South Carolina dominating team. They looked a little sluggish against Old Dominion, but ended up bouncing back with that and dominating Kentucky and Kentucky as well. Going to Kroger Field in Kentucky and beating them 31-6. Big time game for South Carolina. They're 2-0 at home. College game day is going to be there for the first time in 10 years. LSU 1-1. Looked a little sluggish in both games against USC and Nicholls. They're going to have to find a way to rebound and look like LSU football in this game. Crucial matchup for LSU and crucial matchup for South Carolina in the SEC as LSU opens up conference play against South Carolina. LSU keys here. Number one, play aggressive on offense. Show us what you did against Nicholls. USC, the offensive playbook was a little bit too conservative. If you play more with an aggressive attack, throwing the ball downfield and taking more shots downfield, you're going to probably win the ball game. Play a little bit more aggressive in this game. Now, that's number one on offense. Number two, be disciplined. Quit committing undisciplined and unnecessary penalties. That's what you got to do. Just quit committing unnecessary penalties. That's number two if you're LSU. It's just clear as day. Just quit committing penalties. A lot of penalties against USC, a lot of penalties against Nicholls. Quit doing that. Be disciplined. Number 3, slow down the rushing attack of Rocket Sanders and Lenore Sellers, their quarterback. If you slow down the balanced running game against those two guys, and you just kind of slow down their game plan, LSU can win this game, and they can win this game and win it on the road in a key win that they need currently right now. So slow down the rushing attack, be disciplined, and play aggressive on offense. That is just be LSU football, be physical, have a killer instinct, and be disciplined. That is LSU's keys to winning this football game. South Carolina's keys are simple. Number 1, just like number 3, the opposite of number 3. Establish the running attack with Raheem Rocket Sanders and Lenore Sellers. If you run the ball, because Nichols was all over them, along with Woody Marks running the football. Run defense needs to get a lot better for LSU in a lot of games. Sanders and Sellers, they need to run the ball and run it effectively to kind of isolate LSU's defense, and that could get them a good win at home against the Tigers. Number 2, put pressure on Garrett Nussmeier. Garrett Nussmeier is a solid quarterback, but under pressure, he still needs to get a lot better performing under pressure. And I think under pressure, if he does, give him some pressure a little bit that he's not used to, call some turnovers, call some sacks, then South Carolina will win this ball game with Garrett Nussmeier being, just under pressure and not calm under pressure. Number 3, pretty simple, be the more physical football team. You just got to be the more physical football team in this one, and you got to out-physical LSU and win the game that way. So those are some big basic keys for both teams in this game. Hostile environment, William Bryce Stadium, LSU at South Carolina, game day there for the first time in 10 years. Who do I have winning this game? 12 Eastern, noon Eastern kick, 11 a.m. Central kick. Who do I have winning this game? Give me the Tigers close in this game. I think LSU will win. They will beat South Carolina. I'm going to go by a score of 21-14. LSU 21, South Carolina 14. LSU beats them by a touchdown and gets the win over South Carolina. I think they do enough on defense to slow them down a little bit and to play a little bit better physically to get them the win on the road. 21-14, much needed win for LSU. Give me the Tigers winning 21-14 by a touchdown. Hopefully I'm right. Don't know. Usually I get wrong when I do a Pigskin Frenzy game involving LSU. 2 more games, and we will conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Alabama at Wisconsin. Interesting environment. Going into Madison, Wisconsin. Kalen DeBoer's 3rd game. Alabama looked a little bit sluggish against South Florida, and then late in the game pulled away and won. Wisconsin has been looking kind of sluggish a little bit, but also kind of picking it up late in the last 2 games as well. So kind of back and forth for both teams. Alabama at Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin on Fox, 12 Eastern kick, 11 Central kick as well. Alabama's keys are pretty simple. Number 1, just like LSU, be disciplined. They committed a lot of penalties in the first 2 games, especially against South Florida. A lot of unnecessary penalties that they did not need. 12 penalties for 110-plus yards in that game. Not good. You don't need to do that. Not a Nick Saban team, and Nick Saban was on the sideline a little bit disappointed in that team. You got to play better, and you got to be more disciplined. Number 2, contain Tyler Van Dyke. I think Tyler Van Dyke is a solid player. He knows how to make accurate decisions. He's been making accurate decisions with Wisconsin under Luke Fickell's offense and system the past 2 weeks. If you contain him, put a little bit of pressure on him, then you can slow him down and win this game in Camp Randall Stadium. Number 3, established a very strong running game with Ches Malusi. Ches Malusi, grandfather passed away last week. Our thoughts and prayers are with him. We dedicate this episode to him as well. If he, establishes a strong running game for the team this coming up Saturday, very good chance Alabama, Ches Malusi's on Wisconsin, but still, we can, we'll get to that key in a minute. I was looking at Wisconsin's keys. Prayers and thoughts are good with Ches Malusi for his grandfather. We are with him, and we will dedicate this episode to him. My apologies for getting that wrong. I'm completely sorry. Established running game with Jam Miller, Kendrick Law, Justice Haynes and Jalen Milroe. If you establish the running game, power runs, you can win this ball game. That's number 3 for Alabama. Now, number 1, establish the running game with Ches Malusi for Wisconsin. That's Wisconsin's keys now. Thoughts or prayers are with Ches Malusi. But Ches Malusi is a good, solid running back. He's a solid running back if you get him down and if he breaks tackles and plays physical and runs a physical game. It's all good in the hood with Wisconsin. Number 1, Tyler Van Dyke has to have the best game of his college career. He's got to make accurate decisions, play like he's going to win the Heisman Trophy, and slash the defense and make accurate decisions. So that's the first 2 keys for Wisconsin to win this game. Number 3, pretty simple, contain Jalen Milroe by putting a spy on him. If you put a spy on him, watch his every move, slow him down and contain him, then the game can be in your hands. So big-time game coming up for Wisconsin, big-time game coming up for Alabama. A lot to prove for Alabama before they hit that bye week, before the big showdown with Georgia in 2 weeks. Who do I have winning this football game? I think it's going to be closer than the experts think. I think Alabama is going to win this ball game. I think Alabama's going to win late, probably by a field goal. I'll say 31-28. Alabama 31, Wisconsin 28. Alabama beats Wisconsin on the road by 3 points. It goes to the bye and tries to get ready for a solid number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldog football team. 31-28. Give me Alabama winning by a field goal on the road in Madison, Wisconsin. Hostile environment. They get the job done there. Last game before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy, it's Texas A&M at Florida. Big time matchup for Florida. They need to bounce back in a hurry. A&M also kind of needs to bounce back. They both played McNeese State, A&M, and Florida played Sanford. So they played, and they both need bounce back, big time wins, and it happens again against each other. So Texas A&M keys in the swamp. Number 1, Connor Weeman has a breakout game. He has to make good decisions, accurate decisions, good throws when connects with all of his receivers and running backs and makes good decisions in this game to win this football game. Number 2, out physical the Gators. You got to out physical them, man up, be more physical, and be better than them up front on the line of scrimmage. Number 3, pretty simple, pressure the quarterback, whether it's Graham Mertz starting or DJ Lagway starting. Pressure their quarterback. Pressure them, make them force them into deep waters, make them make mistakes, and win the game defensively that way. So those are some keys there for Texas A&M to go into the swamp and beat Billy Napier's Florida Gators. Number 1 for Florida's keys, you got to just be as physical as Texas A&M. You have to be physical just like the Aggies, and you have to get inside the trenches and bully and just go hard for Texas A&M. Number 1, go at Texas A&M and just be physical just like they are. Number 2, take more shots down the field and be aggressive on offense. Kind of like LSU. Take more shots down the field, launch it down the field, and get some good shots. Eugene Wilson's a big-time receiver for this team. Get him some good shots down the field and be more aggressive on offense and throw A&M and the Aggies off their game defensively a little bit. Number 3, put the pressure on Connor Weeman. And along with the physicality, can put some pressure on Connor Weeman, make him make some mistakes, let it be so loud that he can't think in there, and you got to put some pressure on Connor Weeman and to make him make mistakes to win this ball game. That was Texas A&M's keys. That was Florida's keys. Hostile environment, SEC on ABC, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central kickoff time. A&M at Florida. Who do I got winning this ball game? Give me Texas A&M defeating Florida in the swamp. I think A&M is going to win this game close. I think it's going to be closer than what people think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a 38-31 game. Texas A&M 38, Florida 31, and A&M gets the win over Florida, and Florida falls to 1-2 and against a very tough A&M team. A&M 2-1, Florida 1-2. 38-31. Give me the Texas A&M Aggies defeating Florida in the swamp. I just think that A&M is going to be a lot more physical than Florida, and I think that's the key thing there in this game. So A&M defeats Florida 38-31. 1. That is all we got for Pigskin Frenzy here today. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X, Instagram, and Facebook, just type in Pigskin Frenzy. Follow like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, thank you again for tuning in for a great episode of college football presented by me, coverage presented by me. We will be back Thursday for an NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy on Thursday. And we will be back for a, for the recap week 1 and the preview and predict week 2. A lot of injuries to report on, and we'll talk about week 1 recap and week 2 preview and predictions for the top matchups going on for the NFL week 2. So until Thursday, an NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you then for Thursday's NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy. For everybody out there, please and always stay the course.